Capcom's Steel Battalion is arguably the single most ambitious home video game ever produced. It arrived on Xbox back in 2002 with a mandatory peripheral device and a $200 price tag. Such a Herculean project surely demanded comparable effort in producing pinup art. Or so I stupidly told myself. Greetings all, my name is Kontrol. I'm a veteran gamer with a knack for drawing. You're watching the latest in a series of gaming pinup videos, so if you enjoy this show, think about hitting the like button on your way out and subscribe for more. Every now and then a game developer will come up with a concept that's just too grandiose for the standard peasant game controller, so they ship their game with its very own extra chunk of system-compatible hardware to play it. Sure, you could just move the joystick left and right in that Atari skiing game from '82, but Epic Gaming at this level clearly deserved the Joyboard controller for maximum immersion.
"1982? Couldn't we just watch Dynasty instead?"
Okay, yeah, sometimes game devs are leaning on the peripheral hardware gimmick to sell an otherwise terrible game, but every once in a blue moon, the synergy between a video game and its unorthodox controller requirements are so fantastic it becomes unthinkable to play without the specialized extra hardware. Picking up a regular controller now would be like eating filet mignon without steak sauce.
Like ordering a vanilla ice cream cone without sprinkles.
Drinking coffee without cream and sugar.
A hot dog without mustard and sauerkraut.
Roast beef without gravy? I ain't trying to hear that.
A turkey sandwich without bacon? Come on.
Macaroni without the cheese.
It's just not done.
What is happening to us? Alright, so Steel Battalion is best known for the spectacular set of demands it placed on unsuspecting gamers. Several things had to be in play if you wanted to jump on the ultimate mech sim back in the day. First of all, you had to have an Xbox. Capcom specifically wanted their mech masterpiece on the most powerful console hardware available. Great for producing cutting-edge graphics, but a huge business gamble considering the PlayStation 2 had more than twice as many game consoles in homes at the time.
Hey, a hardcore game needs hardcore gamers. X marks the spot, am I right?
Also, Steel Battalion can only be played after putting together the enormous controller and foot pedals that come with it. There was no option to play with a regular controller. This required gamers to have some sort of desk or table set up specifically for this one game.
Okay, so some assembly required, possibly new furniture, and you need 4 functioning limbs.
Correct. Once the controller was assembled, players discovered one very sturdy piece of equipment with very high quality switches, a dial, throttle, illuminated buttons, and 2 ergonomic joysticks with thumb and trigger inputs of their own.
So it's well made. Why is that a problem for gamers?
Because high quality comes with a high price tag. Gamers had to fork over $200 to play Steel Battalion.
Ha! I wonder how the dummies who actually bought it justified that much money for one game.
Why don't you just ask someone who bought it, Mello?
Sure, like I know anyone that's I meant dummies in its original Latin interpretation, meaning very wealthy, right?
For your information, in hardcore gaming circles, we have a name for the people who bought Steel Battalion. They're called guys who understood the situation. Long version, guys who understood the situation and had a job.
See, it's that last part that trips me up.
Look, Steel Battalion is a perfect example of a premium gaming experience. Dropping $200 American for it was a bargain compared to purchasing a dedicated arcade cabinet. It's significantly less expensive than the best force feedback gaming steering wheels, and it's the most intricate and immersive gaming interface ever created.
Except for maybe virtual reality, right? What did a virtual reality headset cost back in 2002?
About $3 billion.
Well, you'd probably have to work an extra shift for that kind of cash.
Most of that money would be for the time machine. You'd need to go a dozen years into the future for the headset.
Oh, and then maybe go to the past and prevent future catastrophes and human suffering on a global scale?
Yeah, sure, whatever. My point was, Steel Battalion is worth every penny of that $200. Although maybe not the $2,299 it's listed for on Amazon as of this writing. But make no mistake, if you bought the game and took decent care of the controller, you've got a real deal collector's item on your hands, usually in the $400 to $600 range on eBay these days.
Okay, but it still seems like risky business to pay $200 for something you've never played or even seen before.
Well, start with this. It came from the house of Capcom, which is about as reliable a brand as they come. The pre-release coverage of the game was compelling. The magazines detailed the insane controls and described the fantastic war documentary look of Steel Battalion's vertical tank combat. I had the means to build a custom wooden platform for it that accommodated my task chair. So there really wasn't anything stopping young Kontrol from giving it a go. Good thing too, as overnight it became my favorite game of the generation. Godly. Steel Battalion famously has a complex set of switches and button inputs required to just get your vertical tank up and running. It requires a bit of timing, as all systems have to align before you hit the big red start button. Driving your tank required some care too, as attempting to turn at high speed could cause you to lose your balance and topple over. The 3 foot pedals handled your gas and brake, and a dash function that enabled you to avoid incoming attacks. Every single button, dial, and switch on that big controller will eventually come into play. In particular, the big eject button, which you absolutely had to use if your tank goes critical. If you didn't eject in time, your game saves would be erased and you had to start the campaign over from the beginning.
What if you're the panicky type? I bet a bunch of players were hitting the eject too early.
Yeah, you definitely want to avoid premature ejection.
It afflicts 1 out of every 10 men.
I'm forgetting something though.
About the controller?
No, I can't remember what movie I stole that premature ejection joke from.
Are you gonna explain why this video is called Never Draw This? Did you have to pay Capcom another $200 for reference or screenshots?
When I came up with the not-so-bright idea to make a Steel Battalion pinup, I got it into my head that it had to feature the iconic heads-up display. The image that greets and assembles itself in front of players when they fire up their very first vertical tank. The HUD animates in-game and has an incredible amount of visual data with useful information on the state of your mech and the surrounding environment. The insane clutter is actually a huge part of its charm, but a little slice of hell to sit down and draw. And unlike creating fan art for more recent games, it was difficult to find sharp reference photos. Pictures of the vertical tanks weren't exactly flooding in either. What that means is much of the small details here are my own creation. As I tried to put the visual pieces together logically, it was so nerve-wracking. For one brief, terrible moment, I considered unpacking my original Xbox and my collector's item Steel Battalion gear, both of which have been sitting in their original boxes in my closet for a scary number of years. I think the TV in my bedroom still accepts component cables.
Or you could just draw Goku like everyone else and call it a day. You're not getting any younger, Kontrol.
You don't know that. And I did draw Goku. Found a way to make even that a technical nightmare. My problem is my background drawing comics pages has taught me that literally anything can be drawn with the right amount of attention, but that doesn't mean that everything should be drawn, and this outrage took about twice as long as the other pinups on this channel. The goofy part is, as you progress through Steel Battalion, you start to get better vertical tanks where the HUD becomes more streamlined and your view of the battle gets much larger. I could have spared myself at least a little hassle by drawing the HUD from the final super fast mech you finish the campaign with. Well, what can I say? There's no easy mode on Kontrol Incorporated. So, if you think the effort was worthwhile, sustained applause comes in the form of pressing the like button. It's right there next to eject.